Happy Thanksgiving from 5 Alive.
From the 5 Alive News Center, Ron Stoll, Jerry Harris, Wayne Shattuck, Jerry Park. This is 5 Alive News at 5.
Good evening. Many of you are spending Thanksgiving with your family and friends, but hundreds of Oklahomans are spending this holiday at area shelters.
5 Alive's Chris Bond is at the Jesus House, where this Thanksgiving is to be thankful for.
I'm being thankful because I got a roof over my head and things like that. I'm thankful for the pilgrims who came to America.
Well, I'm thankful for being able to see another Thanksgiving and grateful, and I enjoyed all the meals, although I am jobless right at the present. But I'm looking forward to having me some good, decent paying job in the future.
It's not really a party, but you get to eat turkey and stuff.
And there is a lot of turkey and stuff for the folks down here. The dinner line is moving right along. The Jesus House will continue serving dinner until everyone here has eaten, probably about 7:30 or so. Ron and Jerry?
Chris, any idea how many people they're expecting?
Well, last year, about 900 people spent their Thanksgiving here at the Jesus House. This year, more than 1,000 are expected. Reporting live from the Jesus House, Chris Bond, 5 Alive News.
All right, thank you, Chris.
If you work holidays long enough, they tend not to matter anymore, right? That's definitely not the case in one business. 5 Alive's Kathy Weiss visited today.
All the elements are there, a large table full of food, people, and good conversation, except this holiday dinner is inside a firehouse. And although they would rather be with their families, there is still comfort knowing that a holiday can mean something even if you're at work.
Most of our families have whatever holiday it is before or after the work day. And while we're here, of course, we're pretty much a family anyway, because we're with these guys almost as much as we are our own families.
Families are invited, and most make it, if not just to show off the kids and let everybody have a little fun. And if families eat, relatives know the best part can be not having to cook.
Tomorrow I do it all. Today's their day.
Kathy Weiss, 5 Alive News.
And more than 1,100 pounds of turkey was served today by the Salvation Army. The fixings included 30 pounds of potatoes, 60 pounds of dressing, and at least 240 pies. But unlike years past, those wanting a free hot meal were served at tables instead of waiting in line for food. The Salvation Army believes this way of serving lets the needy know that they are important. Often, as the thousands of needy line up for Thanksgiving meals, their faces can become a blur. The individual is lost. So 5 Alive reporter Jane Braden and photographer Claire Raby spent this day focusing on one of those faces to tell you the story of one family's Thanksgiving in the midst of the homeless.
It's a dark Thanksgiving morning for John Irvin and his boys.
No, dear. Hey, get up.
But they're about to put some light into this morning with their love for each other. And that love is about all they can call their own. The small family moved here from Florida 2 months ago. Without a job or money, they wound up here in a hallway of the Jesus House.
What you want? A blueberry? Blueberry.
There is usually food to eat and a bed to sleep in. But even with so little, John finds abundance outside of possessions to be thankful for this day.
You can kind of get caught up in things and possessions.
John's religion often takes him a few blocks down the street to a tiny church. It becomes a shelter for the physical and the spiritual.
Dear Daddy God,
Dear Daddy God,
thank you for Jesus.
thank you.
John is learning that whether in poverty or abundance, there's something to be thankful for.
Well, I've got life and breath. I've got strength. I've got my children.
Jane Braden, 5 Alive News.
Well, a holiday tragedy took the lives of 6 Maryland children today. Fire swept through a house, killing 6 children and injuring 6 adults. Officials say 14 people were in the house when the fire broke out. The children were trapped in an upstairs bedroom. The cause isn't known tonight. And authorities in Oakdale, Louisiana are considering a list of 7 demands by Cuban inmates. Inmates continue to hold 28 people hostage at the Federal Detention Center. Officials say there's no sign of an end to the takeover, but negotiations are improving. Earlier today, the group released a list of their demands. Officials aren't releasing any details, though.
And meanwhile, in Atlanta, things are calm at the federal penitentiary where on and off negotiations continue. The Cuban inmates have edged closer to choosing spokesmen and agreeing on a list of demands for the release of hostages. The wives of the inmates and their children are spending this holiday outside the prison, waiting for word of their loved ones. The controversial Make My Day law went into effect November 1st, and the number of people owning firearms continues to increase. More than 20 million Americans now own guns for protection. This evening, 5 Alive's Tracy Lyons begins a series of reports on gun control and how guns play a part in all of our lives.
A gun can't kill anybody without somebody pulling the trigger.
God did not take Jim's life. A shotgun did.
We have 650,000 Americans each and every year who protect themselves with the use of a handgun.
There are almost as many guns in the United States as there are people, more than 200 million, and their place in our lives has its roots in our history. Emerging from revolution, the Founding Fathers drafted a constitution calling for the right of the people to keep and bear arms.
200 years later, that phrase is still the subject of much debate, but bear arms we do, a fact reflected through the decades in our entertainment.
In the movies and on television, guns are often glamorized. Elliot Ness and his G-men use them to fight crime. Celluloid gangsters use them to perpetrate it. In modern times, guns have become the great equalizers.
You're a disease, and I'm the cure.
Make the choice to own a firearm. That is your right. No one should be able to deny or delay you your constitutional right.
But it's a right interpreted very differently across the country. While 20 American states require a waiting period to purchase a handgun, only 7 states call for gun registration. And in roughly 2/3 of the country, the states say carrying a concealed firearm is legal.
We have 20,000 deaths by guns every year. About 9,000 of those are murders.
Would fewer guns mean less crime? We'll take a look. In Houston, where gun laws are liberal and crime is high. In Toronto, Canada, where the opposite is true. We'll hear from the most powerful gun lobby in the world and from the wife of a shooting victim who has taken up the banner for gun control. And we'll hear from the men and women who must enforce the laws and most often see their effects. Tracy Lyons, 5 Alive News, Washington.
We have a lot more ahead for you on 5 Alive News at 5.
Well, not only is there a chance of rain, but some parts of Oklahoma may get snow, Wayne? Really?
That's exactly right, Ron. And part of Oklahoma under a winter storm warning. We'll tell you all about it in just a moment. Dick?
Wayne, a former assistant sports information director at OU has reason to give thanks tonight. I'll have that story and more sports later on. Carrie and Ron?
Okay, Dick.
Also later on, you can ask the doctor questions on house calls.
Today's topic, X-rays and what they tell us. And allergies, maybe. The number to call, 478-5626.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
I was dreaming of a white Thanksgiving myself.
Well, we're going to have one, aren't we? Or some of us.
All right, here's a surprise that you've been hearing about a little bit of snow. I think it's very possible in Oklahoma City in the next 36 hours we will see some snowflakes.
How many?
3 snowflakes, right?
Maybe just 3 or 4.
Oh, good.
But there will be some snow. And up into the northwestern part of the state, more than just 3 or 4 snowflakes. We could get a number of inches. We'll tell you how many inches in just a moment. Right now in Oklahoma City, we've had clouds all day long. It remains that way with 42 degrees in Oklahoma City. The winds right now out of the northeast at 13 miles per hour. The humidity 93%, barometric pressure 31.4 and rising. And we've had a trace of precipitation officially in the past 24 hours. Now, the low today was 40. The high was only 43. No movement there. The normals for this time of year, 34 and 57. And our records, 13 the low for this date and 81 the high. Now, we want to show you our winter storm warning for the northwestern part of the state. In the next 24 hours, we could very possibly get 4 to 8 inches of snow out in the Panhandle, 4 to 6 inches of snow in the extreme northwestern sections of the state. This morning, temperatures were mighty cool. Readings in the 40s over most part of the state, 30s out in the west, including Hobart, also Gage, and out at Guyman. And we have not changed much in our temperatures this afternoon. Readings in the past hour, mostly in the 40s, 37 at Gage, and 50 down at south central sections of the state. That's at Ardmore. We have had some light drizzle reported in many sections of the state today, even some snow already out in the far western sections of the Panhandle. And look at the cloud cover, widespread, not very thick, but completely encompassing Oklahoma. Here's the thicker cloud cover, and this is where the storm system coming out of the Rockies is centered at the present time. We've had a lot of cloudiness over much of the country today for this Thanksgiving Day, and cold temperatures coming all the way down into the southern plains. And our big storm system right now centered over northwestern sections of New Mexico, really bending the jet stream way down into the southern sections of the Rockies, and we're getting a lot of precipitation, a lot of snow. Heavy snow warnings still posted for southern sections of Colorado for tonight. It's pretty much ended in Arizona, but northern sections of Arizona picked up 10 to 13 inches of snow earlier today. 10 to 18 inches of snow possible in the higher elevations of southern Colorado before this mess is over, and that will be spreading into parts of West Texas and even western, possibly central Oklahoma in the next 24 hours. Now, for central Oklahoma, I think we're only going to have rain mixed with snow, possibly changing over to snow for a very brief period of time, but no real accumulations expected for central Oklahoma. For tomorrow night, about this time, here's what we're expecting. Snow, possibly some heavy out in the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma, lighter snow amounts in western sections of the state, and maybe about this time tomorrow, rain changing over to or becoming mixed with snow for central Oklahoma. More rain then all the way to the mid and south Atlantic states, and a little bit of rain way out in the far northwest. Highs tomorrow, 70s to 40s on the west coast. Look at the middle of the country. 60s down in south sections of Texas over Oklahoma, 40s and 30s, some 20s in southwestern Colorado. On the east coast, 70s and 80s in the southeast, 40s and 30s in the northeast. Here's our Oklahoma City forecast for tonight. Look for rain, but not until late tonight, with 37 for a low, northeasterly winds 7 to 15. Tomorrow, look for rain, cold rain, 41 for a high, northerly winds at 7 to 15 miles per hour. Tomorrow night, rain becoming mixed with or changing over to snow with 32 for a low, northwesterly winds at 7 to 15, and the rain or rain-snow mix should be ending on Saturday morning with 42 for a high that day, sunny and 50 on Sunday, partly cloudy and 52 on Monday. So this is your Thanksgiving present from the weather department.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But Sunday looks good.
Sunday it will be improving greatly by Sunday.
Well, that's good.
One day it wasn't a turkey of a forecast, right?
That's right.
Okay, all right. Well, x-rays are something millions of us have every year. Today on House Calls, you can find out more about them.
You can call the doctor at 478-5626.
This year, For Santa's Sake, will be live from both Foley's locations, here at Crossroads and at Quail Springs Mall, all day December 5th.
For Santa's Sake is a Five Alive project which provides food, toys, and clothing to needy families.
Joining Five Alive are the Community Action Agency, the Junior League, the Embassy Suite Hotel, Pepsi, and Foley.
To really make a difference, we need you. Send your cash donations to this address and join Ben and me December 5th, live from Foley's here at Crossroads Mall.
With your help, we can bring a happy Christmas to many Oklahoma families. For Santa's sake.
Millions of Americans have x-rays every year. But what do those x-rays tell us? Well, this evening on House Calls, your questions concerning x-rays can be answered. And Ron is with the doctor right now. Ron?
That's right, Jerry. Joining us today to answer your questions about x-rays is Dr. Chester Beam from St. Anthony Hospital. Dr. Beam, thank you very much for being with us. We have a caller on the line. Do you have a question, caller?
Yes. I would like to know how many x-rays is too much?
The recommended maximum for radiographic and x-ray personnel in hospitals is 5 RIMs per year. A RIM is a measurement of radiation exposure, and that would be for people who are working with x-rays yearly because the total is cumulative. The recommended dosage from the American Cancer Society and other knowledgeable groups, they say that no x-ray should be performed which is not indicated, but any indicated x-ray should be performed, and there is actually no maximum dosage which is recommended for people. They say whatever is necessary because the short-term positive effect of the x-rays is more beneficial in treating the disease and diagnosing the disease than any long-term harm.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Beam. Do we have another caller on the line? Caller, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
I really don't know if we do or not. How do you tell when a person comes in to you for an x-ray? How can you tell how many x-rays that they've had during the year? Is that usually clearly marked on their chart?
Depending on how many physicians the patient has been to see. If a patient has been with you in your practice for a long period of time, you'll have that record in their chart. Otherwise, you have to depend on the patient to give you some indication. As I mentioned, the level of exposure in x-rays today is much lower than it was in years past, and that aspect of x-ray is much less worrisome than it has been in the past.
I know mammograms have been recommended much more now, of course with what happened to Mrs. Reagan. I think a lot of people out there are really scared of those sometimes. I don't think there's any reason to be, but how early can they detect a problem?
Mammograms are able to detect cancers much sooner than they can be felt. By the time a lump in the breast can be felt, it's generally approximately 1/2 inch in diameter, 1 centimeter in diameter. Mammograms can detect cancers when they're much smaller than that, early changes in the breast or in the tissue surrounding the cancer or the ducts around the cancer. So mammograms are very helpful. The best method that we have of treating breast cancer is early detection, and mammograms are the best tool we have in early detection.
Great. We have another caller on the line, Dr. Beam. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, I was wondering, when you have your x-rays taken, why does a technician stand behind something and they don't cover the other parts of your body that they're, x-raying at the time?
We have a lot of people ask us this at the hospital and in our office. The reason for this is the technician is working, that's their job. They're going to have a 250 days a year they're doing that, and 30-year life expectancy in the workplace, and x-rays are cumulative. You'll have one x-ray that day, and you may go 4 or 5 years and never have another x-ray. So physicians working with x-ray and x-ray technicians have to be very careful because they're in there day after day, and their exposure is cumulative.
Okay, we have another caller on the line. Go ahead, caller.
Yes.
Caller, go ahead. Can you hear us?
Yes, I would like to know if there are any x-rays that detect blood clots.
X-rays that detect blood clots?
Yes, there are some that there are indirect methods of detecting blood clots. One is called a venogram. If you have blood clots in your legs, contrast media is injected into the veins of your legs, and it outlines these blood clots. There's also another test where a radionuclide is injected into the veins of the leg, and if the veins are blocked by blood clots, we see the nuclide going up into the abdomen and upper body by a different route. These are the main methods of detecting blood clots.
Okay, Dr. Beam, thank you very much for joining us today. That's all we have time
My
for.
pleasure.
Meantime, if you have any questions about the topics we cover here on House Calls, you can send your letters to 5 Alive House Calls, Post Office Box 14555, Oklahoma City. That's 73113. And tomorrow on House Calls, we're going to talk about hormonal problems in women. Jerry?
Coming up in sports, Dick Pryor has the latest on today's NFL games and a look at Larry Bird's return to action with the Boston Celtics. Stay with us.
Well, with all that snow out there, Jerry Park is skiing right now, I think.
Sounds
Dick
good.
Pryor is here with sports.
And some good news, bad news. Fortunately, it's going to turn out just fine, the story is. Tulane Sports Information Director Jeff Seal is in good condition today after being robbed and shot last night in New Orleans. The former Assistant Sports Information Director at OU was abducted by 3 youths last night while walking to his car in uptown New Orleans. They took Seal's watch, wedding ring, credit cards, and $12 in cash, then shot him once in the back after releasing him. The suspect stole Seal's car and led police on a high-speed chase that ended when they crashed the car. The good news for Jeff Seal is that he came out of surgery in good shape with no paralysis and is expected to be released from Tulane Medical Center in about a week. In other news, the Kansas City Chiefs have reason to give thanks today. Their 9-game losing streak is now over. The Chiefs snapped the streak with a 27-20 win over the Detroit Lions at the Silverdome. Bill Kenny fired a couple of touchdown passes for the Chiefs. This 7-yarder to Jonathan Hayes made it 7-0. Kenny staked the Chiefs to a 14-0 lead in the second quarter. He dumped it off to Paul Kaufman, and Kaufman took it in. The Chiefs built up a big lead, then saw the Lions rally. Chuck Long's 10-yard pass to Gary Ellerson made it a 27-20 game, and that was the final. Both teams now have 2-9 records. 27-20, the final score. One other game this afternoon in progress. In the third, Minnesota leads Dallas 28-17. The host berth in the Cotton Bowl will be decided tonight when Texas A&M hosts Texas in their traditional Thanksgiving battle. The 15th-ranked Aggies have the best defense in the Southwest Conference. Texas features multi-talented Eric Metcalf. The winner of tonight's game will be Southwest Conference champion and will meet Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl. Darryl Dawkins did not stay long with the Utah Jazz. The Jazz traded Dawkins to the Detroit Pistons today for second-round draft picks in 1988 and 1990 and cash. And in the NBA last night, Boston beat Atlanta by the final score of 117-102. Danny Ainge makes a steal and leads the Celtics on the fast break. Dennis Johnson scores. Larry Bird returned after missing the last 4 games with tendonitis in his Achilles tendons. He scored 6 points, but his presence was indeed felt.
You bet it was. Okay, Dick. We'll be right back with the final word after this. Here are the stories that topped our news this evening. Hundreds of Oklahomans are spending this Thanksgiving holiday at area shelters. The Jesus House is among those volunteering to feed the homeless. Authorities in Oakdale, Louisiana are considering a list of 7 demands by Cuban inmates. Those inmates continue, though, to hold 28 people hostage at the Federal Detention Center there.
And that is 5 Alive News at 5 for now. Happy Thanksgiving.
Let's go now to ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. We'll see you tomorrow.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Tonight in Washington, 2020 correspondent Tom Jarrell.